Hey, welcome back. I want to talk about two things, and hopefully, it will help a couple of agents out there as well as investors. Guys, listen, I'm going to talk about listings first, okay? And then I'm going to talk about people, okay? So it kind of goes two ways. The two topics aren't separate, they're kind of like intertwined, okay? A lot of times, listen, yes, we're trying to understand the business and we're trying to do really well. And a lot of the young agents, people who are 1 to 2 years into the business, they get this idea, which is a fair, correct idea, that the larger the number of listings that they have, the better they're going to be able to do, which is a fair idea. It's good. But I want to burst your bubble a little bit. Gary Keller in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book writes this, and you should really get this, okay? It's actually available. I've seen it in Borders in Mall of the Emirates. I'm sure it's in Kinokuniya. Well, we've got Amazon today. You can actually order that book. You can actually get that book pretty easy, okay? It's a book I read back in 2013. I didn't really understand what it was saying, but let me try to translate for you, okay? Back in 2013, we didn't even use the word listing in the Dubai market, to be honest with you, okay? It's just that more recently that word started coming in. And he talks about that and he says, look, any smart, good agent on his own is going to be able to service about 25 listings max. 25 listings max. And that too, I think he's probably talking about if you're working in one particular area or two particular areas. But if you start in Dubai and if you're thinking, okay, the more the number of listings I have, the better I'm going to be able to do, there's a slight inbuilt fallacy in here. And I'll explain to you why. Look, taking on a listing is a responsibility. And then there is certain things that you've got to do from regards to just the listing on its own and then the sales side on its own, okay? So imagine if you've got one listing, you've got one seller to deal with, you've got one property to deal with, you've got one property to market, and on the other side, you've got one property to field leads on. So if you do open houses, good marketing, you got one property to close, so on and so forth. Now, the way that for most realtors in Dubai, the way that things are built is pretty much in the beginning, the first 2-3 years, I've seen realtors with 5 years of experience. They don't have assistants with them. Some of them do. You're pretty much doing all of this yourself. You're dealing with the seller yourself. You're dealing with the property yourself. You're dealing with the marketing yourself. You're dealing with the open house yourself. You're fielding leads or agent viewings yourself. You're going out and doing outreach yourself. So imagine if you've got 25 listings and you're doing all of this. Sometimes just having a concentrated, proper, focused meeting with the seller to update them on what's happening with the property can take anywhere between half an hour to an hour, right? So if you've got about 25 listings and you've made a point to actually at least update the seller with what's happening with their property at least once every 2 weeks, if not once a week, that's 25 hours gone because you're going to have to talk to them and say something responsible. Like you can't just tell them like, yeah, hang in there, we'll get it sold. A lot of agents do that. I've been guilty of that. But, you know, if you really want to be working on a listing, you got to be approaching them and giving them advice properly. Now, think about the other side, marketing the property. What if the property is not in ready sale shape or renting shape, and you've got to actually go out there and organize a painter, get it cleaned up, so on and so forth. There you go. Like, there's no way that you're going to be able to handle 200 properties. And this is what I'm hearing from young agents. They come back to me and they're like, I've got 200 listings, but I can't get them exclusive. I can't work on them. And then, I just find out that the seller already sold it through somebody else. Well, of course, you're too busy trying to just get listings instead of actually working on the listings you have. Instead of trying to get 200 listings, instead of trying to get 100 listings, instead of trying to get 50 listings, it's better for you to get 10 good, well-priced listings and getting them exclusive with you. Short story, I knew somebody back about 8 years ago who had a list. Bless him, like he had a list of 80 listings. guys, listen, I've been an agent long enough. I know that when you have 80 listings specifically in different areas, there's no way you know anything about them. Like, it's going to be very difficult. Like, if you've got 3 studios in, let's say, Arjan and a villa in Palm Jumeirah, you're going to be spread out so thin. You're either going to know nothing about the Palm Jumeirah villa, or very, very little, or you're going to know next to nothing about the studios in Arjan. Which one are you selling? Which one are you planning on marketing? Which one are you going to focus your energy on selling, right? Age-old adage, right? Focus gets you better results. Now, on the other side, the flip side, agents, they complain. They're like, they can't get exclusives. The reason they can't get exclusives is because they're not able, because they say, like, sellers don't want to meet us, sellers don't want to work with us, sellers don't want to talk to us. And then I'm gonna add the other angle into this. Okay, guys, listen. You've got to understand that when you're working with sellers, and this applies to investors as well, when you're working with vice versa with agents, you're actually dealing with people. Like, this is, at the end of the day, a people business, right? So let's look at it from an investor's perspective. If you're talking to an agent and you're expressly telling them, like, look, I need a certain price point, or I need a certain, let's say you're a buyer and you need a villa that's 4 bedrooms with 1 bedroom downstairs, and the person's constantly trying to sell you apartments. Like, if you had a decision and decided with him and had a talk, and that you both decided that, hey, we'll look at a few apartments that are 3 bedrooms large, or with a maid's room, because maybe you don't have a maid, and maybe it can be used by yourself as an office, because that's what you were trying to do in a 4-bedroom villa. Fine. Then they start trying to show you or pitch you 3 bedrooms, good size apartments. Fine. But if you categorically told them that, listen, there's no way that we can live in an apartment, we need a villa, so on and so forth, then, and if they start sending you apartments, you know that this agent's not listening to you. They're not even pretending to understand what you're looking for, right? Bad relationship. You're not going to be able to do business with this agent. And same thing applies to an agent when they're working with an investor. If that investor is not investing any time to meet you, to understand the value that you offer, so that you could take on that listing perhaps exclusively, or understand the relationship that you can actually form with the seller to be able to then service them properly, no go. So again, I'm going to repeat this, okay? It's worth repeating. Agents, if you're looking to get many listings, and all you're thinking about is, if I get a large number of listings, I'm going to be able to do more business. Fine. I understand your perspective. I understand where you're coming from. But look at it from the other side. If you've got 50 listings, it's a very big chance that you've not been able to actually understand the market on those listings, the pricing on those listings. You've got no clue what the recent transactions have been, because I've been doing this for more than 10 years. And for me to actually do a price analysis on a particular property, if it's really, really simple, can run you in an hour, minimum an hour. But if it's a really complicated property with a lot of customization in a very, very specific niche area, with a lot of luxury behind it, or so on and so forth, or a lot of renovations and upgrades and so on and so forth, it can take you days. It can take you days, really, because the first analysis you might do on the pricing might be completely whack, might be completely off. Then you do another one, then you mark it, and then you do another price analysis. And maybe you're either wrong by pricing it too low, or you're wrong by pricing it too high. Then you've got to deal with the sellers. You've got to update them. You've got to talk to them. You perhaps have to meet them on Zoom or in person, so that they know exactly what's going on with their property. So if you got 200 listings and you don't have a team underneath you, if you're 50 listings, you don't have a team underneath you, what's going to end up happening is, every time, depending on how many minutes a day you spend, so if you're spending 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a listing, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to start finding it difficult to service those listings, and then they're going to start getting sold underneath your legs. Like, you work on something like a little bit, put in about 20-25 minutes per week on that, and then you find out, oh, you call the seller after 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and the seller's like, yeah, I sold that property 2 weeks ago, I sold that property a week ago. So you got no control. You've got no framework. Build a framework, okay, and understand that implementing that framework helps you and helps the seller. And maybe I'll do a video. I'll do a video on explaining that framework to you guys. I'll do that on my with the screen, with the help of a screen. Yes, now I will do that for you guys. So you guys, when you go and talk to sellers, you'll have that framework to actually explain to the sellers, this is what I do, and this is how I'll do it in the right way for you. Okay. Number two. Guys, don't forget this is a people business, and this applies to investors and to agents as well. Okay. Guys, if you're dealing with a person on the other side, like I've done this, I've had to deal with sellers or sellers representatives that were very difficult to deal with. They wouldn't open up. They wouldn't give full information. They would be too stubborn. Like, bless them. They've got their own reasons. Let's respect them, okay? Like, I had this one particular situation where somebody had built their dream home, put in a lot of money, and then they were suffering from some illness, from what I understood, something that was life-threatening, and they were in a position that they had to sell their property. A very sensitive thing, obviously, and very, very, very sensitive. And a person around this situation not only can be very sensitive, but can also be very stubborn, right? So we always have this saying, like in real estate, if you put in about 2 million dirhams worth of marble into a property, you are the one who put that 2 million dirhams worth of marble into that property. Let's say you did marble flooring. You perceive that value to be 2 million dirhams. So you spend that. The next buyer who comes in might or might not perceive that to be worth 2 million dirhams. Maybe the new buyer loves marble, knows that particular factory or quarry or mountain you got that marble from in Italy, absolutely is in love with it, and is willing to pay 4 million dirhams just for the marble floor alone. Or perhaps the new buyer doesn't like marble. Perhaps there have been situations where people had in their old houses marble, and then they talked to me and they said, marble is really difficult to maintain. Like, it grays out, the shine doesn't remain, and then to get it polished again, it's a pain in their heads and necks and whatever. And so they don't like marble. So if you've put 2 million dirhams of marble into your property, or 20 million dirhams worth of marble, the new guy might not be willing to pay that. Now, it does become a very sensitive thing. If you actually put in your life's money and savings into this property, and you're really, 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 really in love with this property, and now because of some life-threatening sickness, you're thinking about selling the property for XYZ reason, of course, but then it's a call on my end, because I gotta understand, like, either I'm gonna be mature enough to be able to handle this seller, bring them on to my side and explain to them, like, look, we're not here to hurt you. We're not here to sell your property at a distress just because you're going through a life-threatening sickness. We're here to help you, but we are experts and we are able to price the property in an expert way. Grant, if you are that expert, right? Then you've got to work with them. But if you don't have that maturity level, or if they don't have that maturity level, like at some stage, the relationship just might not be working. So if you're not able to, at that stage, reach out to them with the level of maturity that's required, or if they're not able to mature through the process, you say goodbye in a nice way. You've got to remember, you're dealing with people. Same thing applies to you as a seller. Like, if you're dealing with an agent who doesn't show up to the appointment on time, is disrespectful to your time, tells you that he's the best, he's Superman, he can sell your property, and is not willing to listen to you, right? Is not willing to listen to your concerns. Is not willing to answer your questions. Like, yeah, don't worry. We'll just sell the property. Relax. Break in relationship, right? So, two things. Guys, listen. Taking on a listing is a responsibility. As a young agent, if all you're doing is taking on listings and you're at 50, 100, 200 listings, but then none of them are exclusive, you don't know the seller, you're not focused, you're going to burn out, you're going to waste time, you're going to suffer on the other end, okay? So take on about 10 listings to maximum 20 listings, but service them properly. I'll do a little framework on guiding how you should be working on these listings. Number 2, it is a people business. So understand that it's a people business. It's a people business. It's a people. And this goes both ways, from an investor perspective and an agent perspective. Is an investor is not giving you their time, is not investing, is not upfront, is not talking to you, and is not mature enough to understand your process, your fees, and to give you the time and the rights to sell that property, perhaps exclusively, perhaps an engagement fee up front, move on. Work with somebody else who respects that. Same thing applies for investors. If agents are late, don't respect your time, aren't working with you well, get rid of them. Work with somebody else. All right, guys, I hope this has been helpful. 2 things I've covered is, you don't need more listings to sell more. You need focused listings. Number 2, it's a people business. Ciao for now.